What's up everybody, Extramillion here once again with Totally Sick Fallout New Vegas Edition, and in this episode we are just about to begin the first of the game's 4 DLC campaigns. This one is known as Dead Money. So basically you'll want to go towards the Abandoned Brotherhood of Steel bunker by way of the El Dorado Dry Lake and just head southeast from there. Remember to stick to the mountains as opposed to like the roads or the valleys, because you'll probably get attacked by cazadores on your way there. If you remember from the previous episode, we had just started grinding for levels against various monsters. The game recommends that you're at least level 20 before you start Dead Money, but that's a little unnecessary in my opinion. I'm only level 16 right now, so I gained 8 levels in between the last video and this one. For my skills, the points that I allocated were mostly towards leveling my melee skill up all the way and maxing that out, and then putting other points where I just thought I needed them, like medicine and lockpicking. The only one that I would absolutely say is necessary is getting your science skill up to level 50, which allows you to hack average level terminals. You definitely need this ability before you start Dead Money. As for my perks, I got Finesse at level 10. Finesse gives me an extra 5% chance to land a critical hit, so you can stack that on top of the Build to Destroy trait and my already high luck stat. At level 12, I got Piercing Strike, which is incredibly useful. It allows your unarmed and melee weapon attacks to ignore 15 points of damage threshold, so basically you can cut through light armor like butter, and then you can do significantly more damage to anyone who happens to be wearing medium or heavy armor. This is especially useful against the Deathclaw type enemies, because they naturally have exactly 15 points of damage threshold. At level 14, I got Purifier, which does 50% more damage to Abomination-type enemies. This includes Deathclaws, Tunnelers, the Night Stalker-type enemies that we've been fighting, and it just so happens to include the only humanoid enemy type that we'll be facing in Dead Money. Finally, the last one I got at level 16 was an ability called Better Criticals, which increases the critical damage of all weapons by 50%. So whatever damage would normally be added on when you get a critical hit is now increased by 50%. So basically my character is built for getting critical hits all the time and making sure that those critical hits really hurt. So I said that you needed a science level of 50, and the reason for that is that before you go into Dead Money, there's a room that you need to access in order to get the most benefits out of actually completing Dead Money. To get access to it, you need to hack the terminal that's next to it, and of course you need a science of 50 to access it because it's an average level terminal. The way that hacking works is a bit different than lockpicking. As you can see, there's what looks like a bunch of gibberish and then a few words that are in there. Those words are what the password could be. The password is actually scrubbed, I believe, in the upper left hand. But the way that you can figure that out is you have 4 attempts to guess the password, and then if you use all 4 of your attempts, you're locked out. So if you use 3 of them and then you don't think you can guess it, just back out and then retry and you'll reset the computer. The other way that you can find out what it might be is if you select the passages that have the gibberish that begin with brackets, greater than or less than symbols, or parentheses. It will give you one of 2 messages. It'll highlight a line, and it'll give you one of 2 messages if you select it. It'll say either "dud removed," which removes one of the possible passwords, or it'll say "allowance replenished," which gives you more attempts. The reason that you have to do that is after you finish Dead Money, that terminal becomes unusable. So if you don't hack it now, then you won't get the chance to. So this is the first DLC called Dead Money. If you noticed, you walked into that room towards that radio, and then you were hit with some sort of knockout gas, and you were abducted.
We all have.
Basically, the story of Dead Money is that these guys were going to build a huge casino called the Sierra Madre out in the desert, and it was going to be like the best casino ever. Unfortunately, the Great War happened that turned everything post-apocalyptic in the first place, and the security system at the hotel activated and murdered everyone inside, and it locked everything up tight. So now the place is basically a giant tomb. So it's really enticing to treasure hunters, but you have to actually be able to get inside first. To make matters worse, the entire town is surrounded by this red cloud, appropriately named the Cloud, which is highly corrosive and basically damages you while you're standing in it.
Going off. The grand open.
What happened when you were knocked out is a guy named Father Elijah, who happened to be a former Brotherhood of Steel member, kidnaps you, and he puts a bomb collar around your neck. And he's also kidnapped other people that are laying around the city and put bombs on their necks as well. And basically, his objective for you is you have to assemble a crew for a Ocean's 11 style heist mission where you gain access to the Sierra Madre and break into the vault. So this DLC is fairly unique in that since you were captured, you don't have, you're stripped of, you're basically, it's like a Metroid scenario. You don't have any of your weapons or armor or anything. You're basically just all your skills, traits, special stats, and everything else that you would normally have without anything. So you don't have any armor, you don't have any weapons except for the suit, the jumpsuit that he gives you, and this gun called the Hollow Rifle. So your first objective really is to go find your 3 companions that you need. The first one is in the medical district. Her name is Christine Royce. She was actually hunting for Father Elijah when he captured her.
Pre-war junk. The speakers emit a...
Now, even though the Hollow Rifle is a gun, I won't actually be... I'll be using it, but I won't be using it as per my rules on any enemies. I'll only be using it to take down long-range targets that I can't otherwise reach. Because you see, there are several different types of traps in these areas besides the humanoid enemies. There's tripwires that can set off grenades, or like big metal girders that attack you, or there's those little signal emitters that cause the collar that you're wearing to explode if you're within their range for too long of a period of time. The blue ones that are lit up like that can be destroyed only with firearms. They can't be destroyed with melee weapons for some reason. There's other ones that have a red light, and those are shielded. They can't be destroyed. Other times there are radios that will also affect your collar, and those can just be switched off. So this is the clinic where she's being held. The other types of enemies that you'll see here are holograms, which are these blue glowing hologram-looking things that shoot like Cyclops optic blasts out of their face. Those guys you'll definitely want to get rid of as soon as possible by destroying these that are sitting on the wall, the hologram emitters. You can also reprogram them if you can find their control terminal to just like go elsewhere, like you can tell them to patrol an area that you're not currently in. So basically, once we entered this area, we ran upstairs, destroyed the hologram emitter for the hologram, so he's not going to bother us anymore, and we grabbed the key to the clinic's basement so we can shut off the power. Shutting off the power shuts off all the rest of the sonic emitters, so we don't have to worry about them anymore, and we can go talk to Christine. This area is also where we'll find our first melee weapon and suit of armor, because the one that we're wearing now currently has no damage threshold, so it doesn't offer very much protection. So here's Christine. She can't talk because that machine that she's in, called the Autodoc, actually ripped her vocal cords out. With all of the characters that you'll meet in this, you'll want to be very nice to them so that you can get a lot out of them and that you don't have to murder them at the end of the game. We told Christine to meet us back up at that fountain where we started with so that we don't have to have her follow us around, because obviously I'm not using companions in this run. If Christine is with you, she gives you the Signal Interference perk, which makes it take longer for your collar to explode. So we'll pick up a few more items in here. And then we'll equip the Cosmic Knife. It's not very powerful, but it'll do in a pinch. And the cool-looking Assassin Suit. And then we'll face off against our very first enemy. These guys are called Ghost People. They kind of are like a cross between the Splicers from BioShock and the Whalers from Dishonored. There's 3 different types of them. The one that I just fought is the most common type, called the Harvester. They basically have these spears that they will throw at you, and then once you get within melee range, they'll take out a like a staff with a knife on the end of it, and then they'll swing that around and attack you. There's also a Trapper type, who wields a weapon on his fist called the Bear Trap Fist, which is the weapon that we'll be trying to get next because it's extremely powerful against them. And then there's the Ghost Seeker, which they're the most powerful ones. They can throw bombs at you, and they have more health, and they're just generally more annoying. The Ghost People actually have a few unique things about them, one of which is they're very easy to sneak by, and they don't aggro quite as easily because they're actually coded in the game to have a perception of 0. And finally, they have a unique thing where you have to actually dismember them to kill them. Once you deplete their health, if all of their limbs are still intact, including their head, they will simply become unconscious, and then they'll get back up after a period of time. So unless you chop their arms or legs or their head off, they don't actually die permanently, and you also don't get experience points for it. So now that Christine is at the fountain and we got her, we are next headed towards a super mutant named Dog, or God, depending on which of his split personalities is currently in control. He is located at the police station. Also, those things I'm picking up on the ground are Sierra Madre casino chips, because just like every casino in the game, it uses its own proprietary currency, so we'll pick up a few of these so we can gamble later. Once you enter the police station, you'll immediately be hit with a signal that'll cause your bomb collar to explode, and there are 3 or 4 radios that you'll want to immediately turn off. Because there's one. Then we'll go down this hallway and pick up a better suit of armor called the Sierra Madre armor. Kind of makes you look like a futuristic riot guard. Pick up another knife, and then a Sierra Madre helmet, so we can complete the outfit. There's a 3rd radio, and a 4th radio. So the deal with God or Dog is that he has locked himself in this prison cage, and he actually has the key on him, but he won't pay attention to us currently. So we have to go into the basement and get a voice clip of his other personality. This is actually a very interesting mechanic because you can switch back and forth between God and Dog at any time. And they actually have different stats, and they also have different
You would come the cage.
companion perks that they give you.
I am.
You can switch to Dog by playing the voice clip of Father Elijah from the beginning of the DLC, and then you can switch to God by playing this voice clip that you get in just a second.
The one in the cave. Dog. I had to lock him up. He keeps...
So we'll put our better armor on. And repair our knife to full capacity.
On the table. The disc. My voice.
If you're having Dog follow you, he has a companion perk called Ravenous Hunger, in which any unconscious ghost people that aren't dismembered, he will run up to them and eat them, which obviously causes them to stay dead. And then God has, in my opinion, a much more useful ability called In My Footsteps, which makes it so that all the tripwires and bear traps and all the other traps that are in the various areas that you'll find, you don't set them off, which is very useful. So basically you talk to God, and you have to convince him to give you the key to get him out of the cage. The easiest way to do that is to basically play the clip of Father Elijah to turn God back into Dog, and then because Dog is basically a simpleton, you can get him to do whatever you want. So we'll send him towards the fountain as well. This guy right here is our first encounter with the Trapper type. As you can see, he's doing quite a bit more damage to us than the other ones are because he's a melee fighter. But luckily, now that he's dead, we will have the weapon that we'll be using for the rest of the DLC, the Bear Trap Fist. You need a unarmed skill of 50 and a strength of 5 to equip it. The best thing about this one is, what you'll see in a second, boom, one-shot kill. The reason for that is because it does 2 times damage to limbs, and if you combine that with the 250% increase in limb damage that you get when you perform the cross attack, you get, you know, quite a bit more limb damage. So it essentially means it's a one-hit kill. So every chance you get, pick one up off their body so you can repair it, because in this DLC you only have what you can find. This DLC is also the reason that we got the Phoenix Monocyte Breeder, because not only does it slow the corruption of the cloud if you're standing in it, but it also enables you to just heal while you're running between these different areas. The last place that we're going to is the residential area to find a guy named Dean Domino, who was a entertainer back before the casino was about to be opened. This whole area is fairly dangerous as long as you don't know what you're doing, but if you do know what you're doing, like I do, you can just run through and not stop moving and you won't get shot or blown up or whatever. And then, of course, as you can see in the courtyard there, there's the cloud, which causes you to take persistent damage over time if you're standing in it. So we'll go upstairs here, and then we'll talk to Dean. Dean is a special case because in order to not have to kill him at the end of the game, you'll want to, first of all, not mention the bomb collars that you guys are wearing, even though it's obvious because it sort of agitates him, and you'll have to immediately agree to whatever it is that he wants you to do. Basically, don't antagonize him at all. Dean's ability, if he's your partner, is a perk called Unclean Living. Basically, it's the same as Christine's, only instead of affecting the signal emitters, it affects the cloud. So the cloud does not affect you for a certain period of time, and then when it does affect you, it does less damage. The easiest way to get back out of this area if you're confused is tell him to go back to the fountain and then just follow him. But you have to be super quick. Like, as soon as you're done talking, stand up, and then you can see he sort of jets off, and he runs faster than you automatically anyway.
It's through the cloud, but if I'm with you, I can help you through it. If you didn't...
An easier way to get to him is if you already have a lock-picking skill of 75, you can pick the lock on this gate that he runs through, and then you can basically skip right to him. So now that we have all 3 of our companions, the next phase of our little plan here is you have to position them in certain areas around the villa so that they can perform tasks which suit them. So as you can see, I got another level, so I'm level 17 now. For the next 2 levels, you'll see me level up the explosive skill, and that's because I forgot that I was playing with the unofficial patch on that I downloaded from the Nexus. And there's a certain perk that I wanted later on that requires an explosive skill of 60.
Back in the cave.
Well, that was actually an oversight by the developers, and they've said as much, and the unofficial patch corrects that. So it actually requires a energy weapons skill of 60. So this would have been too early on for me to have gone back, because it would have required too much work to get back here. So I basically dumped 2 levels worth of points into explosives for no reason. Not that you won't have everything maxed out by the time you get to level 50 anyway.
Couldn't leave well enough.
Now Dog is forced to be with me, or actually he's God right now because I'm using his In My Footsteps perk. He's forced to be with you right now, so I just tell him to sort of hang back so that he doesn't, help me out in any significant way. That is one of the first times you'll see one of the Ghost People Seekers, the guys who throw bombs at you. Basically what we're doing with God or Dog is we're trying to lead them towards this area that has a bunch of switches that they have to pull because of their immense strength. This area is also loaded with traps, so that's why I'm using God because of his specific perk, even though if you were playing this normally, Dog would be a bit more useful because he's the better fighter. His strength is higher. Although, curiously, God actually has more health. He's actually coded in the game to not actually have a health upper limit. So if you were to do this DLC at level 50, his health would be, I think, higher than most enemies in the entire game. So once you actually reach the area that you're supposed to be going to, you have to convince him to stay in the little area and flip the switches. The easiest way to do this is basically to... he says that you can basically bribe him with some meat, because apparently he likes the taste of the ghost people. You can lie to him and tell him that, sure, no problem, you'll get him some meat, and then go to the little computer terminal and lock him inside. Or if you want, you can actually be truthful and go actually get him the meat. Either way, it completes it. So once you're at the switching station, we'll tell him to follow us.
So here we are.
You'll have to bear with me for a second. I kind of forgot the dialogue trees that's necessary to get to where I needed to be. But essentially, at the very bottom, once you get to the right place, there'll be a thing in parentheses that says lie, and you get negative karma for it, but I don't really care about that. So you basically trick him to get him in here, and then you lock him in. So long, sucker. So with his quest complete, we'll run all the way back to the fountain to grab another companion and start part 2. Since you no longer have his In My Footsteps perk, you'll want to be extra careful for any of the traps that happen to be around, specifically the bear traps, because they'll cripple your limbs and make it harder for you to run. Plus, with everything in this DLC being some shade of brown or red, it's kind of hard to see them, especially with it as being as dark as it is. So the next person that we're going to do is Christine. first we'll take a quick detour and pick up a few more health items. You may have also noticed while I was running around that there's these little kiosks that have this blue halo above them. Those are dead money vending machines. Since you have no bottle caps, and since the Sierra Madre was built before the war, it takes actual money. But since you don't have any actual money, it will also accept Sierra Madre chips. The fact that the hotel, or the fact that the casino pays out in, or the fact that everything here pays out in pre-war money or Sierra Madre chips will be a bigger plot point a bit later, especially once we actually finish the DLC. So we'll get Christine to follow us. One good thing about Christine's section is the area that we need to get her to is it's very high up, but it's actually towards the beginning. So if you tell her to wait, you can actually run through all of the dangerous stuff, and then you can go inside and then come back outside, and she'll basically teleport up to where you are, and that'll make a bit more sense once you actually see me do it. Now, you can't do this with Dog or God, since he's like a super mutant, so he's huge. But since Christine and Dean are normal-sized humanoids, if you want, you can actually give them the assassin suit, so that they have a bit of extra protection, since we're not currently wearing it. Kind of forgot where I was going for a second, but all of these bombed out buildings look pretty identical. It's good to clear them out anyway, because we'll be telling Christine to just stay where she is. So I'll go into this bombed out building. And you want to head up towards the roof, and inside this toolbox here you'll pick up a electric box fuse, and it's one of 3 fuses that you need. Since we have to repair a fuse box, but our repair skill is not high enough to just do it like with no supplies, so you have to find these 3 fuses. The first one is right on the roof there. The second one is right before you get to the area where you need it, and then the third one is actually right next to the fuse box. So they basically just give you that one for free.
That's where you'll need to bring the mute.
Also, there's several areas outside in these bombed-out buildings where you'll find beds. However, since they are exposed to the cloud, the game will not let you sleep on them, even if there are no enemies present. So we fixed the fuse box. There are more of the frequency generators that you can destroy in this little hallway, but it's easiest to just run by them until you're just past them, because Christine's ability is still with you, so it's kind of like a non-issue. Then we'll just jump on this little pipe and avoid most of the cloud. And in this next area, we'll pick the lock on a door so that we can sneak by this turret that tries to shoot at us, so we can get around behind it and then destroy it. You can also go to a specific area in this room and turn the turret off, but it's easiest to just destroy it. And then we'll pick up this little key, which is a key to a locker in the previous room that contains a passcode that we need to access a computer. And then this is a little elevator that will take you right back to the beginning. Now, since we told Christine to stay there, she is teleported right to where we need her to be. So instead of having her follow us through that whole area, we just teleport her here. She tells you that she doesn't want to go down in the elevator to do some repairs because she's claustrophobic, so instead we'll have her do the repairs from the computer terminal. In order to do that, you need the key, which gets you access to that locker, which gets you access to the remote terminal password, which finally gets you access to the terminal itself. So you'll switch the uplink to this computer terminal, and then you'll tell Christine about it, and she'll give you her heartfelt thanks. And then that'll be one more quest down. Also, being nice to her gives you good karma, so that sort of balances out the bad karma we got for lying to God. And then you'll want to run all the way back and finally go grab Dean for his part in this, which seems kind of ridiculous when you hear what it actually is. Supposedly he's supposed to go up on a roof and connect two wires together using his body to complete the circuit, which seems really dumb, but whatever. Now, in order for Dean not to interfere, because he normally has a handgun, I give him my cosmic knife that I got much earlier, so that he'll be forced to use that instead, just so that I'm trying to adhere as close to my original rules as possible. Now, you can get Dean up to the roof, but he won't stay there unless you give him your assurance that he'll be protected. Now, you can just lie to him or threaten him, but that forces you to kill him later on in the game. The easiest way to get him to stay where he is and not incur his wrath later on in the game is you have to activate these two hologram guards, which is actually really awesome because the courtyard that you're running around the rooftops above has a bunch of ghost people in it, and when you activate the security guards, they just appear and start, optic lasering the shit out of everybody.
Let's head through the hole in the wall there. If we go backstage, we avoid the locals.
So we'll go through a few of these more samey-looking, confusing areas. And we'll take a left here into this cafe and kill this guy. Unnecessary slow motion. It's really dramatic for no reason. Anyway. So you'll want to go upstairs and activate the first of the two hologram guards.
If you see a prize lying around, the ghost people leave supply.
Whoops, this is actually the wrong exit. So we'll turn this guy on and he'll start killing everyone, and of course you get experience for each one that he kills. And then we'll go up on this roof and activate the second one. And then finally, once everyone is in position, you have to run towards a bell tower to finally activate the last sequence that that's required to open the Sierra Madre Casino itself, which sets off a bunch of fireworks for the grand opening.
So, look. You. Yeah, even, but...
The bell tower. That's where you'll trigger the gala event. It's a ways up. I'm sure you'll find a way to climb up there.
Alright. Everyone's in place. And like I said before, I accidentally waste a level on leveling up that skill, that explosive skill that I don't need. That was level 18, I believe, so that would give me an additional perk. The perk that I chose there was called Stonewall, which gives you +5 damage threshold against all melee and unarmed attacks, which is very useful against most of the stronger creatures in the game, since they're all melee and unarmed attackers. But most importantly, it makes you immune to being knocked down, because very powerful enemies in the game can knock you over with some of their strikes. So Stonewall prevents that from happening. You can still be blown over by explosives, but there's not really too many enemies in the game that use explosives. So this mission to get to the clock tower is probably the hardest one in the whole DLC, not because of any enemies or anything, but because it's extremely confusing to remember where in the hell you're supposed to be going in the first place. Even just getting there is tough, and the whole place, as you can see, is surrounded by ghost people and traps. And then once you actually activate the sequence to get the Sierra Madre to open, you have to run back through all of this, with even more enemies and even more traps that have spawned. And it's extremely difficult to remember where all of the traps are to not run into them, so you'll see me run over quite a few of the bear traps and have to apply either a doctor's bag or a stim pack so that I can get my health back up so that I'm not crippled. One unfortunate thing about this DLC is that since it is more or less linear, it's not very open world, you cannot fast travel between locations, so it's not like you can just get to the top of the tower and then teleport back to the villa. One easy thing that the developers did do to help you sort of get back is once I turn around and I'm going the other way, you'll notice graffiti on the walls, like arrows that say like nowhere to run or run, run, run or something like that. Basically, once you're headed towards those, you know you're headed in the right way. Okay, so 2 full minutes of running later, and we're finally up top here. Oh, you may also notice those little cassettes that I'm picking up. I mentioned the vending machines earlier. Each one of those little cassettes that you pick up gives you another item that you can buy from the machine, because not all of them are available to purchase at the start. So each one that you find just gives you another one that you can buy, which is also going to come into play once we actually finish the DLC, along with that room that we opened. So now that it was activated, we have no choice but to run all the way back and enter the Sierra Madre proper. The easiest way to get back into the villa itself is once you get to a certain point, you can drop down into one of these courtyards, and there's a fence that you haven't been able to unlock yet. And sitting next to that fence on the side that we're now on is a corpse with a key. And we can grab that key and open the fence, and then we're back in the villa. So finally, all that nonsense is done. Then you make it back to the villa, and you can approach the Sierra Madre and actually enter the casino itself. And that's all for this episode, but I will see you guys next time.